Hi and welcome once again. I appreciate you stopping by. This is Jennifer McGuire. So if you've watched my videos, you know that I'm a big fan of the Gina K Wreath Builders, and I'll show you one in a moment. They're great for creating wreaths or just patterns in a background that radiate from the center. Well, today I thought I would focus on the Mega Wreath Builders that Gina has come out with that allow you to make larger cards or larger pieces that you can frame. Now, you're supposed to use the Mega Wreath Builder with a giant stamping tool. However, today I've got a trick to show you how to use a regular stamping tool. So stick around, I've got a few variations to show you and also some other fun ideas. This is the original Gina K Designs Wreath Builder template. Now, there are actually two that come together. This is the larger of the two and the one that I use the most. Now this I use with the original MISTI stamping tool. Any stamping tool would work for this and it fits in nicely. Now this template that I use the most is for a 4" by 4" piece of cardstock, but I've shown in videos how you can use different sizes in it and it works well too. The smaller template that comes with this is for a 3 3/4" square piece of paper. These templates are inexpensive and can be used in so many ways. I've even used them with die cuts and stencils. Here are just a few different examples that I've made. You can easily create wreaths with the Wreath Builder or form mandala-like backgrounds like a kaleidoscope look. You can even use it to create a cluster of leaves behind some flowers or even to create a frame using a sentiment stamp around a focal point image. Again, I'll link to that playlist so you can see the many ways to use them. But today I'm focusing on the Gina K Mega Wreath Builder template. That's the one that you see on the left, and there's a size comparison between the Mega and the original. The Mega also comes with other templates that fit inside so that you can use a 7.5" square piece, a 6" square piece, or a 4.5" square piece. So you have many options with this. And again, here's a comparison to the original. The original is even smaller at 4 inches. So you've got lots of sizes here and you can make bigger pieces you can frame or bigger pieces that you can cut down and put on multiple cards. The template set also comes with these circle elements in the inside. I find that these are helpful in planning out where the center of your wreath or your piece is so you can put a sentiment there. And I'll show you how those work later. So you get everything that you see there in the left in the Mega Wreath Builder template set. And they're all very handy. So many ways you can use them, and I'm going to show you a few today. I'm a big fan of tools that you can use over and over again with different stamps that you have, and this definitely fits the bill. Now, when the Mega Wreath Builder template came out, the idea was to use it with the Memory MISTI, which is the largest stamping tool. You can see how big it is here. Now, I think it's like 12 by 12. Now here is the original MISTI. There's even a mini that's smaller. But that Memory MISTI I like to use because I can do a lot of stamping at once, but it does have a higher price point and not many people have that tool. But I wanted to show you how you could use that giant wreath builder without having the big MISTI, without having this Memory MISTI. And by the way, I see that my friend Kathy Rakusin had used this and wrote "Love You" on the center of it. But anyways, this Memory MISTI is the 12 by 12 work surface and it has the paper in it and the pads so you can use cling or clear just like with the regular MISTI, but bigger. The idea is this is great for scrapbookers too. I do think it's best to show you how to use the Mega Wreath Builder in this giant MISTI first. Then I will do an example showing how to use this Mega Wreath Builder template in the original smaller MISTI. So stick with me if you want to see that, but I thought I'd start with how it was originally intended to be used. Now this is the Gina K Designs Crazy Daisy stamp set. The cool thing about this stamp set is there's coordinating dies and a coordinating stencil. So I'll be using that today to add foil to the center of my flowers. I'm starting with a 7.5" square piece of white cardstock and I'm putting it in the center of the largest Mega Wreath Builder template. To make things easier, I'm going to go ahead and tape the template into the MISTI just so it doesn't move. You could totally skip this, but I find it handy when I'm moving really quickly with all of my stamping. Okay, so I'm starting with the first flower, but I need to get the position just right. And it's kind of hard to eyeball it in that large open area. So I'm going to put all the other templates into the center temporarily. This will show me where the center point of my wreath will be so I can plan how far out I want my first stamped flower to be from the center. So here's my first flower, and I want it to be just about there from the center point. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, but I can kind of plan between that largest opening and that circle in the center where I want my flower to be. Once I have it in place, I can go ahead and close the door on the MISTI, and it'll pick up that stamp and we can start our stamping. But first we'll remove those other templates. If you're unsure about your positioning, you could always stamp first on scrap paper to test it out. Okay, so since I've never used this stamp before, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it with a microfiber cloth just to get it ready to take some ink. I'm using Gina K Dye Sea Glass ink. I found out that I had left this ink open overnight. I'd left the lid off overnight. I can't believe it. So this ink pad's a little bit dry. I'm going to have to get a reinker because of my mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and double stamp this just to make it show up a little bit more since I did dry up my ink pad. Okay, so once I stamped it once, I'm going to rotate this one turn. Watch, it's just going to rotate to be diagonal here. And then I'm going to put the magnet down to hold it still and stamp it again. So what I'll do is continue to rotate it one little turn each time and stamp until I have a perfect circle of flowers. Now this process is really fun and you get into a rhythm, and before you know it, you're done with your stamping and you have that perfect circle. Once you've completed it, it's time to move on to the next image. I want to have leaves that kind of come out from behind these flowers, but I didn't want to take the time to mask. So in the end, I'm going to end up stamping more flowers, die cutting them, and putting them on top of the ones I've already stamped. So let me show you. For this one, I'm using the Gina K Graphic Sunflower Stamp Set. There were 2 leaves in here that I really liked. I'm arranging them so they overlap with my flowers and kind of stick out a little bit. So I'll close the door on my MISTI, and now I'm going to stamp these with the green ink. Now I chose a lighter green ink, the Jelly Bean Green. Thought it was a little bit too light, so I'm going to double stamp it to make it darker. Now notice my leaves are overlapping the flowers. It's going to look like a hot mess in a minute. That's okay. I'm going to stamp other flowers, die cut them, and glue them on top. I thought that was a lot faster than masking. So every time I'm stamping, rotating it one turn in my Mega Wreath Builder, and then stamping again. And I'll continue to do this until we've formed the entire wreath with these 2 leaves. I wanted to be sure to have a leaf of the same color that went towards the inside of the wreath. So I've arranged another one of those leaves to point towards the inside, and I'll stamp that with the same color ink and go all the way around the circle again. You can see it's starting to get messy because I have so much overlapping, but we will fix that later. This is so much faster than creating masks for all of those flowers. Now I could have stopped here with the leaves that I have, but I tend to overdo things. That's just the way I roll. So I have another leaf image here that I'm going to stamp with Gina K Key Lime ink. So I'll stamp this again, overlapping with the flowers and leaves that I already have, but that's okay because we will cover up our mess later on. I really like this key lime color. It's perfect when you stamp it once. I'm just double stamping it to make it darker so it matches up with our other leaves a bit better. Now I'll continue around the circle with this, and then I'm going to move that leaf towards the inside of the wreath and stamp it again there. So I've got lots of different leaves coming out from our flowers. Our flowers are getting covered up pretty good here, but at least I know where exactly to position all of those leaves for now. And then I wanted to add my final leaves in Gina K Lucky Clover ink. I thought I needed something a bit darker there. So I double stamped that to make it darker, and there we have our completed wreath. Now some of the other leaves that I added to this are from this Gina K Layered Daisy stamp set. You see the tiny little leaf clusters? I added that towards the center of the wreath just for some different sizes. So you can dig through all of your stamps to find different flowers and leaves you can use together. Now I'm stamping 8 flowers that I can die cut and add onto our wreath to cover up the layered mess. I like to use the Memory MISTI a lot off screen so I can do a lot of stamping at once in the large area. I don't normally use the Memory MISTI in videos because it's hard to fit it in the screen. In fact, for this video I had to make my screen go wider, so I have a different work surface than I normally work on. Okay, now in the center of each of these flowers, I wanted to add some foil detail. So let me show you how I do that. I have my Tim Holtz Travel Media mat here. It's my favorite work surface because it cleans up so easy and is perfect for this step. I have the Crazy Daisy stencil that goes with this flower. It coordinates perfectly. And I want to add this ornate center bit to the center of my flowers, and that's the part we'll foil. So I'm actually going to do something crazy and cut my stencil. You don't have to cut it, you could keep it whole if you wanted. I just thought it'd be a lot easier, and that way I just have the one portion I need for this flower. Okay, after I cut this, I'm going to take the negative space of one of my flowers to help me create a guide so I can make a bunch of flowers at once. So I've got my negative space here. I'm going to just tape it down onto my glass work surface. Once I have it taped down, I'll put one flower right in the center. Then I'll line up my little stencil here so it lines up with the flower stamping. And I will put some tape on this. This will act as a little hinge that allows us to lift it up and put a different flower under it each time. So now I'm going to put some tape around the rest of this little stencil, and we're going to apply a new product over it. This is Thermoweb Duo Transfer Gel. This allows you to apply foil to a project using either a laminator or a die cut machine. So I'm just going to take a little bit out with a palette knife and just rub it right over the opening. Then once I'm done, I can lift up the tape, take out the flower, put in a new flower, and then repeat the process. I'm going to set the flowers aside to dry for about an hour. You want to leave it to dry for about an hour. I left it longer because I had to go get my daughter from school, but you just want to give it some time to dry completely. Okay, so I'm going to continue this process to cover all 8 of our flowers, trying to be sure to make an even layer each time. Once I'm done, I will clean off my palette knife, clean off my stencil, and we're good to go. Okay, so after about an hour of drying, you'll come back to your little flowers, and the stenciled portion will be clear and a little tacky. Now you can again apply foil to this using a laminator or die cut machine. I'm going to show both. Let's first look at how to do this with a laminator. Now, with any inexpensive laminator that applies heat, you can use foil with this Duo Transfer Gel. So I have cut some little pieces of Gina K sparkling silver foil. This is from Thermoweb. You need to use some sort of deco foil or fancy foil like this one. I like this one because it's really sparkly. Now I'm going to put my flower into a folded piece of parchment paper, put the foil on top of it with the pretty side facing up, and run it through my laminator. The laminator is applying heat and pressure, which will cause that foil to stick to the transfer gel. So it'll have a little bit of dimension to it and lots of shine. Once it's cool, I'll go ahead and peel off the foil and check out that fun, sparkly shine that we have at the center of our flower. Now I also wanted to show you how to do this with a die cut machine. Any die cut machine will work. I'm putting it between my 2 cutting plates, running it through as if I was die cutting with a wafer thin die, but there's no die. All we're doing is putting pressure on this, which causes the foil to stick to the transfer gel, and you end up with a beautiful foiled center. So both options work. I think I like the laminator option because it's something that I'm used to, but you could definitely use either. So using that Duo Transfer Gel allows you to apply foil over an area that you used with the stencil. Now it's not exactly the same as when you foil something that you created with a laser jet printer. That's more smooth and kind of infused in the paper. This is more dimensional and on the surface, but it does give beautiful shine and is fun to use. After I foiled all of my flowers, I'm going to add them onto my wreath here using some foam tape. And I'm just going to line up the die cut flower with the flower that's stamped and hidden behind all of the leaves. I did add a sentiment to the center of the wreath, and that's from a Gina K Have Faith stamp set, and I'll show you that in a bit. So now I have a 7.5 inch square piece that I can frame. I'll probably put this in a 10 by 10 frame, and then I will be able to put this on display. You could also use this for scrapbooking, or you can make smaller wreaths and add them to cards, which I'll show you in a bit. I did add a few light pool colored gemstones here and there just for a little bit of sparkle. So here's the final project. You can see all that foiling in the center of the flowers and how beautiful it is, along with the gemstones surrounding it. So this is how you use the Mega Wreath Builder in the giant MISTI. Very easy to do. If you're going to be making a bunch of these, I would probably go with this option. But next I wanted to show you how to make a piece of the same size using the Mega Wreath Builder in a regular MISTI stamping tool. Now Now I kept this project very simple because I just wanted to demonstrate it, and my next example, which is a card, will show even more. So here I have the original MISTI stamping tool. This is the one that most of us use. I'm taking the largest Mega Wreath Builder template, and I'm taping it up against my MISTI. So it's going to be hanging out quite a bit, but that's okay. So I'm just taping this kind of up against the edge of my mouse pad here. And then I'll put pieces of tape here and there. I don't think you need as much tape as I used, but I wanted to be sure that it stayed put so I could quickly do all of my stamping. I am again going to start with a piece of white cardstock that is 7.5 inches square, just like last time. I also chose a large butterfly from the Gina K Love and Kindness stamp set. This stamp set is to raise money for hurricane victims, and she has already raised over $20,000 from this stamp set, and it's still available. Okay, so I have my paper right into the square opening of the Mega Wreath Builder. It's hanging out, but that's okay. Put your bar magnet on it so it doesn't move, and start your stamping. I'm doing a rainbow of colors. This is Gina K Dandelion Ink, which is the perfect yellow. I will stamp it, and then I'm going to wipe it clean, just using a microfiber cloth. Rotate once. Again, I'm fitting in the openings of the Mega Wreath Builder. I just have it hanging out, which isn't a problem. This time I used mango ink. I'll do another turn, and then I will use passionate pink ink. And I will continue to stamp and turn and stamp and turn until I have a rainbow of butterflies going in a circle. So you'll need 8 colors. You could use any colors that you want, or you can do them all the same color as I did in my last example. I find projects like this are fun because you can figure out the perfect rainbow assortment and write it down for future reference. Okay, now I want to find the perfect center of this to stamp my sentiment. So I'm just taping my piece down into the center of the Mega Wreath Builder, and I'm going to get all the other little templates and fill them in. I will then get down to that circle center, and I will know that's the perfect center of this piece, and I can just stamp into that opening, and I've got it perfectly positioned. At this point, I don't want to mess up my stamping, so I'm going to use a stamp positioner. This is the Art Impression Stamp Positioner. It's a little clear guide and that little clear L-shaped piece. I'll ink up my stamp, which I have on a comfort block from Gina K. I will put the guide into the corner of the L-shaped piece. Then I'll put my acrylic block into the corner of the L-shaped piece and stamp down onto the guide. Now this won't dry on the guide and I can clean it off later, that's fine. We're just using it to help position our stamping. So I'm going to center that up in the center of that circle that we have. Once I have it in place, I'll put the L shape up against it, hold that still, ink up my stamp again, and then stamp into the corner of that L shape. And I will hold the L shape there even when I'm done stamping, because if I pull my stamp away and realize I didn't stamp it completely, I can go ahead and stamp it in the same spot again. Turns out I got it great on the first try, so there we are, ready to go with the simple piece. By the way, this is the Gina K Have Faith stamp set that I used for the sentiment on this project and our last one. So I just wanted to do this example to show you how you can create even the biggest piece using the original MISTI stamping tool or other regular size stamping tools. Okay, so now let's create a card using one of the Mega Wreath Builder templates. The Mega Wreath Builder template allows you to make a giant wreath that fits in the center of your card nicely. You could even do 6x6, 5x5, 5x7, whatever sizes you want. I want to do a 6x6 piece that I'll cut down later. So I have my Mega Wreath Builder still in my MISTI, and I'm going to add one more template on the inside, and I'll tape that in place. Now inside of this goes a 6x6 square piece, and again I'll do all of my stamping on white cardstock. For this example, I'm again going to do a floral wreath, but remember, you can fill in an entire background. You could do kaleidoscope backgrounds, whatever you want. I just happen to like flowers. Now I'm going to start with a small flower, and I'm going to stamp it each time with the dandelion ink, which is that beautiful bright yellow ink. I'm going to do the same trick where I skip the masking and later instead add die cuts to cover up our overlapped flowers. So it really doesn't matter what color you stamp these in because it will be hidden. Now I'm going to come through with a small leaf cluster and kind of overlap it with the flowers. Again, I'll be doing all of this stamping with the Jelly Bean Green ink so that I have a nice green leaf peeking out from our flowers. So I'll continue to stamp those leaves around the circle. The only thing you want to be careful of when using the original size MISTI with the Mega Wreath Builder is make sure the door of your MISTI doesn't have any ink on it, because it may touch the paper that's hanging out the edge. Okay, next I wanted to add little dots in the background, so I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Lots of Dots stamp set. I use this one a lot because it's great for little filler elements. So I've put a few here in my MISTI door, and I'm going to stamp them in different colors. Sometimes I'll stamp them in dandelion ink, sometimes I'll use mango, and sometimes I'll use passionate pink, just to give a variety of color in the background. This is a good example of something that's much faster with a wreath builder. To get all of those dots in the same position would take some time and thinking if you were just using an acrylic block. So I find this very handy. Okay, I decided to stop here and not overdo it, kind of keep it a little simpler. Now it's time to add our flowers on top of this so we have the dimension. In the center of these flowers, I'm going to add some silver glitter, and this is fast to do. So I'm creating a little template here to pop all of my little die cut flowers in, just like I showed you on my first example. I'm also cutting that portion of the stencil out that I want to use, so I can create a little hinge to quickly add these little details in the center of all of my flowers. This time I decided not to add foil to the center. Instead, I'm going to use Gina K Glitter Glitz Gel. This comes in lots of great colors. I decided to use the basic silver today. This is a great way to add silver glitter to your project that won't rub off. So you just apply some over your little stencil, flip it up, take out your die cut, and put in the next one. And I'm going to add silver to the center of all of my flowers. And I did a mix of different flower colors. I did mango, dandelion, and passionate pink. So after adding the glitter gel to 8 flowers and letting them dry for about a half hour, it's ready to go on to our next step. I wanted to make sure my sentiment is in the center, so I'm using one of those circle templates and lining up the inside of that circle with the tips of those little leaves there. I could use all the templates to make sure I get the center just right. This was easier. So I'm going to stamp Hello Sunshine with black ink right into the center of our wreath. So now we have a 6 by 6 inch piece. I could create a card this big, or I could trim it down to be maybe 5 by 5. I'm going to trim mine down to be 4 by 5 1/4, so it can go on a typical note card size. So I'm going to trim a little bit off each edge here, and I'm going to keep trimming down till I get to the right size. What I could have done to make sure I had this just right was do a little math, but I was being lazy, or I could have just used a rectangle die, which I don't know why I didn't think of it. I just ended up trimming off these little pieces. I can actually save all those little pieces for scraps for a future card too. I end up trimming this down to be 4 by 5 1/4. I will put this on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, which is what I typically make. And by the way, I know many of you make 5 by 7 cards. If that's the case, you want to start with the 7 1/2 inch piece and use the Mega Wreath Builder template to create that, and then cut that down to 5 by 7. Okay, so I'm going to use some foam tape to add my flowers to cover up the original flowers that we stamped. And this will hang off the edge, but that's okay. We'll end up trimming the extra off later. I added that onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card that I created from Gina K metallic cardstock, or silver metallic cardstock. I can trim the extra off, and there we have a typical note card size that I made with the Mega Wreath Builder template. So I hope this video demonstrates more ways to use the Wreath Builder and how you can use the Mega Wreath Builder in an original size stamping tool. It's really a fun tool to have. Again, you can use it with stencils and die cuts, and my playlist will show all of those videos if you want to check it out. Now, if you're interested in any of these supplies or getting a closer look, all of that is linked in my YouTube description below. In the center here, I have that playlist of my Wreath Builder template videos, and also another video for you. Thanks for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful week.